I love that story about the Buddha, about being awake. And it's all about change, all about evolving, and all about growing. And there's another particular story that I really do enjoy, and it's one of the oldest stories known on the planet. It's been found in many versions, and it's the epic story of Gilgamesh. Have you ever heard this? Yeah, this is a story that is 4,000 years old. It was, even parts of it are found in the Bible. It predates the Bible by almost 1,000 years. And it was discovered in a dig at Nineveh in 1853. The earliest versions of this story are dated to 2100 BCE. You know what BCE is? Before Common Era. They changed BC to BCE. So it's one of the earliest texts, and even parts of it are found in Genesis. The Old Testament wasn't even, didn't make its appearance until between 950 and 850 BCE. So that's 1,000 years after this story is told. And if you don't know the story, Gilgamesh was the king of Europe, which is modern-day Iraq. Elements of this early Sumerian epic show up in the story of the Garden of Eden. The opening lines describe King Gilgamesh as a man who has traveled the world and experienced all emotions. He had been granted knowledge of the primeval days of humanity. He has suffered all and accomplished all, and he is now 2/3 divine. Gilgamesh was once a good king, but now he is turned into a tyrant. No one dares to criticize him as he oppresses his subjects in all manner of ways. His subjects call on the great mother goddess to create a twin to Gilgamesh. She creates Enkidu, who is 2/3 animal to Gilgamesh's 2/3 divine. Enkidu is childlike in nature and runs wild with the animals. He frees them from traps and drives away marauding predators. When a trapper sees him, for he is covered with hair, he is so frightened of him that he goes to Gilgamesh to find out what to do. Gilgamesh sends a woman out to use her love arts on him to civilize him. So after 3 days of passionate lovemaking, he returns to the animals, only they won't have anything to do with him anymore because the hair has begun to fall off of him and he begins to smell like humanity. So the woman goes out again and gets Enkidu and takes him back to town. She puts clothes on him, which is a mark of civilization. To be with and to mate with a one woman is also a sign of civilization. So this is a little bit some of the story that we get in the Garden of Eden. Because where we've always looked at the shame in putting clothes on as being something shameful, actually in ancient history, to put clothes on meant you were civilized. So it brings a whole new twist to what we've often thought of as the Garden of Eden story. Little does Gilgamesh know that Enkidu has been sent to civilize him as well. They are mirror reflections of each other, and they are to come into balance. This 4,000-year-old epic addresses how man becomes civilized, how he learns to rule himself and to act with temperance, wisdom, and accountability. I find a great wisdom in this ancient of all stories, for it is a journey we are still on today. We may have different words for the elements of this story. However, we see Gilgamesh as the ego gone wild. And it takes the balance of someone remembering what it's really all about, that we are innately part of a oneness of the world, that we are not separate, to bring that ego back into perfect balance. Enkidu reminds him of where he began, and an expanded awareness evolving as these two aspects of the same person come into contact. This story appears in Robert Brummett's book, Birthing a Greater Reality. And this is one of my teachers from Unity School when I was back in seminary. And what Robert has really done a lot with is about transitions, about our soul's evolution and how we are growing and evolving, and we're supposed to. Things are not supposed to always stay the same. We are souls that are going through changes through our whole life experience. He puts it so simply. At each level of the evolution of our consciousness, we get a different answer to one basic question. Who am I? And we are not supposed to get the same answer every time. Since our experience of reality shifts with our sense of our own identity, our reality also changes at every level. Robert gives a basic description of what happens during these times of conscious evolution. I'm amazed that as we look at what he started out writing this as our personal evolution, but it also applies to all of us, and not only individually, but it applies to our families as we evolve, our churches, our communities, our nation, and even globally. We are evolving. When you think about it, and you go even back 20 or 30 years ago, look at what the internet has done. It's brought this planet together in a way unimaginable 30 years ago. And that we can talk to people in other countries and have friends internationally just from our home computers. We are evolving into a global community. And as we get new techniques and new media and new ways of connecting, we are coming together in a great evolution of consciousness that is planet-wide. The steps that Robert describes are these. He says, first we have a clear sense of who we are, and perhaps we are comfortable with our current life. At some point, we feel dissatisfied with our current life, or our current perception of our lives, let's put it that way. And we glimpse that something new is available to us, and we are drawn to it without even exactly knowing what it is. Anybody go through that? Where suddenly you're just feeling uncomfortable, that there's got to be something more. There's got to be something different. Sometimes it's because life has happened to us. We've had a death of a spouse, or we've moved, or we've got a job change, or something's happened, but something makes us uncomfortable from our comfort zone. And so we know we're ready for the next step of our evolution. We feel dissatisfied, which is step number 2. With our current lives, and we glimpse that this, whatever this is, we don't even understand why we're drawn to it, we just know we have to move. Prior to moving to the next level of awareness, we must integrate anything that we have ignored or repressed. And did you read that little statement in the bulletin about the Aint? Hand me a bulletin, would you? I love this statement, and I thank you for Renee for putting it in the bulletin. Where is it? It's not on this page, it's on one of the other pages.
Oh, is it by this one? Or by facing? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Sorry.
Should have brought that up. By facing the demons within us, we transform them into angels. Our demons are nothing but rejected angels. Isn't that wonderful? Our demons, the things that are, we can call it our dark side, we can talk about our stuff, we can talk maybe our woundedness. Everything that we have gone through is here to give us insights into our own evolution. And when we take the time to integrate all that we can, that learn the lessons from even some of the most challenging things that have happened, there are lessons to be learned, and they are necessary for our soul's growth. And so when we can pull these into us, and our good stuff and our not so good parts, we can find that balance of who we are. Forgiveness can also be a major part of this. Because forgiveness, and I know as we've talked about it, forgiveness does nothing for the other person. Forgiveness is all about healing ourselves. It's letting go. Remember the statement, lack of forgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die? Lack of forgiveness and all the anger and frustration, and we've got them. Ever have a time when suddenly something that happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and we get all upset about it? Let it go. Let it go. Have you ever seen the bumper sticker that says drop the rock? Have you ever seen that? But drop the rock is used in a lot of the AA and other 12-step groups. And it means if you're holding onto this rock and you're drowning in the sea of life, and you have friends above you in boats, and they're telling you, let go of the rock. But you say, but it's my rock. It's all the anger and all the pain and all my stuff, and I earned this rock. Let go of the rock. It's dragging you down. So if ever you see a bumper sticker, that's what it's telling you. Let go of it. It's not part of your present unless you want it to be. So as we let go of our anger, we let go of when someone did something to us, let it go. If someone cut you off in traffic, let it go. You know, I've finally changed that one around. When someone cuts me off in traffic, I say, you are so lucky that I'm here to take care of your butt. And I feel so good about myself that I was right here and we did not have an accident because I took care of you. And so I don't really get upset driving anymore. And so it's just how you reframe it so you can start feeling good. And you can pull these things into yourself and find a balance. Next, we need to let go, disengage, or surrender those things that keep us limited. People going through this sometimes leave marriages or jobs or move so they can begin, again, trying out a different identity. Anybody ever go through that? I'm looking at Annette. Welcome home. But we go through that, is that sometimes you went to Colorado to try out being a grandmother firsthand. And what a wonderful gift that was. And that's also part of your identity now has filled in because you had that year of being with your grandchild. And I just think that's wonderful. And it's just that maybe you have felt that there was something that needed to be fulfilled in there, so you made the move, and when that was finished, you came back. And so you're ready for your next adventure. I think it's wonderful. And I know that a lot of us out here are the same way. That we feel that we need something inside of us needs to be fulfilled. And so let's honor that. That's part of our soul's evolution. Sometimes this is a willing disengagement, and sometimes life is happening to force us into some changes. Do you ever lose a job and be glad you lost the job?
Yes.
Sometimes we think it's such a horrible thing, but it turns out to be one of the best things. In fact, one time I lost a job, and the last place I worked was out of town. It happened to be where my grandparents lived. And my two aunts were cleaning out my grandmother's house. And so I was able to join them. And as we cleaned out, they had 9 kids, and this was like 50 years of living in this house. I would trade any job I've ever had for that experience of working with my aunts, because that's what sticks with me. I was there able to help, able to work with the family, able to help clear out all the pictures and furniture, and that's the experience I remember. The job was unimportant. So sometimes it got me to the place I needed to be, but it was time to let it go. Eventually, we let this old self die and move on to become what we're here to become. Again, feeling comfortable in the new role, gaining a new answer to the question, who am I? Until the process starts all over again. So it should be an ongoing different answer in different stages in our life. Perhaps you've had an experience of this kind of evolution. I know for me, strange thing happened. We very close to the family. And my parents and I went to a family reunion, and this is about 40 years ago. And for some reason, something really strange happened. They started shunning my father. He had had a leg amputated, and for the strangest reasons, I never did understand, that was someone, that he embarrassed them. He wasn't perfect. Isn't that strange? I couldn't understand it either. And so my parents actually packed up and left early. And they never went back to a family reunion, and I didn't bother going back because I moved to Atlanta, took on a new job, became a minister. I went back about 10 years ago. They'd never met my husband, Scott, and I just thought, well, it's time that Scott meet the family. They didn't know quite what to do with me because we don't have ministers in the family. They hadn't seen me in those 30 years. And I had a ball, and so did Scott. But at the end of the reunion, my Aunt Lee came up to me, and she said, it was so good to see me, and that I had changed. She said, "You're still Sydney, only more so." And I thought, isn't that the neatest blessing? That I was still me, but I had changed. I had evolved. And maybe that was what I needed to hear when I went back to this reunion, that I had changed. I had actually moved beyond the family, unit and the tribal concerns. This was a very large family, and I'd become me. And I needed to go away for a while in order to claim that identity. And it was nice to go back and see that it was recognized, and we've just really, really had a ball. Maybe that's what our soul's growth is about. That sometimes we need to get away and sort things out and figure out who we are without the limitations of what the family needs or other ideas that we've had, but just to find out who we are and allow ourselves to change. We are still us, only we become more so. We keep the good parts of who we are, and we look at what makes us unhappy. In order to not stay stuck, we look at our inner issues that seem to keep us immobile. Explore what it is in us that needs to change so that the change becomes reflected in our outer world. Our soul cannot grow unless we are proactive in this. Our soul cannot grow if we don't invite the change. Our outer world will not change until our inner world does the work first. One World Spiritual Center, would you say we've changed? I mean, it was a shock when we found out that Stephanie was going to be leaving, and I know many of us went into panic and trying to figure out how are we going to do this. But then something happened, and I've watched this through the last few months, is that we were finding strengths within ourselves, where we had been depending on Stephanie, and she was a wonderful leader. But suddenly we were finding in ourselves that we could step up to the plate, that we could take the best of what Stephanie offered us and taught us, and then add our own to it and thrive. I think we've done a remarkable job. I mean, the first thing we do is looking at the question of who am I? Remember when we were looking at our mission and our vision statement? We were looking for that very same answer. Who are we? Then you ask the next question, who do we want to be? And then you find out, well, then how do we get there? We've been exploring who we are as a community, and we embrace ourselves and look at who we want to be so we can find the leader that will help us get there. And this is what a reverse, what so many people don't understand. Well, we'll change when we get the leader who will take us there. And that's exactly backwards. You change first. You figure out where you're going. Then that leader that will help you get there will make themselves known. And it's amazing that once that energy is sent out, how it happens. And I know we'll hear more at the hug meeting today about where we are in that whole process. We appreciate Stephanie and all that she helped us create here. And it's going to be interesting when she comes back at the end of the month to see how much she's changed and how much we've changed. I can hardly wait. But we've both been on our own evolution and our own growth. And it is happening. I've watched it, and you should feel so proud of yourselves. Everyone is doing such a good job. And the energy in this church is phenomenal. Robert ends his book, and there's so much more than I can cover in just a few minutes this morning. with a final statement. And as I read this statement, I ask that when I point to you, that you state your own name and say it loudly, if so moved. As a conscious evolutionary, you are stepping into a new dimension of your life. The universe is now consciously evolving through you. The divine pattern of your soul is being activated through your heart's deepest desire. Filled with the potential of a greater reality, you are about to make a quantum leap in fulfilling your purpose in this life, which is to become a fully conscious expression of the one power and one presence, which is also known as now say it real loud. I want to hear all these names together. There we go. That's power. Let's take this into meditation.